Hey, everybody. Thank you again for watching this stream. I appreciate your time and look forward to any comments you may provide. This is the monthly review of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office monthly news, and this is for the month of July that just passed since today is August 1st. So we're going to go over some cases, and I read them verbatim so that you get the full gist of what the news alerts are here in MCAO or Maricopa County. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to make this full screen so you can see it for yourself and easier to read. So again, this is real cases, real case files. This is my lane, and it is the intent to provide information to citizens and folks around the world to know what's going on in Maricopa County. And as always, a criminal charge is merely an accusation, and the defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty. So, our motto, fighting crimes of all kinds, is steadfast here in Maricopa County, Arizona. And I hope that you enjoy and at least understand what kind of activities going on to protect our citizens. So the first article that came out, or news alert came out, was on July 10th. It's titled Shooter Sentenced for Elderly Man's Murder. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today the sentencing of Roberto Trejo to 20 years in the Department of Corrections for the murder of Frank Vitale. In October 2024, 66-year-old Frank Vitale had just finished lunch at a buffet located near 99th Avenue and McDowell Road and was in the front seat of his car when he was approached by the defendant, Roberto Trejo. Without warning, Trejo pointed a handgun through the window and shot Vitale before fleeing the area. With the help of witnesses and surveillance video, the defendant was located and arrested by Avondale police. Vitale was preparing to retire and had recently bought a home in Maricopa County where he planned to live with his sister. He had arrived in Arizona 2 days earlier to prepare for the move. Police found no connection between the victim and the defendant and no apparent motive for the shooting. Trejo had been released from prison almost 5 months earlier and was on supervised probation at the time of crime. He pleaded guilty to one count of second-degree murder, a Class 1 dangerous felony. Quote, "No amount of time will be enough to make up for the pain and suffering this defendant has caused," said County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. A 20 years old, he had the opportunity to improve his behavior, but instead chose to do the unimaginable and take a life. Thanks to the work of homicide prosecutor Daniel Strange, this defendant will no longer be a threat to the community. Clip it. Our next article, news alert that came out, was on July 13th. Maricopa County Attorney's Office Programs Recognized by National Association of Counties. So we get some good news amongst these news alerts too, so that's good. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell is proud to announce that the Maricopa County Attorney's Office has been recognized with 2 2026 National Achievement Awards from the National Association of Counties, NACo, bringing the office's total to 87 awards. NACo's National Achievement Award honor innovative and effective county programs that strengthen services for residents. 2 MCAO programs were recognized for their positive impact on the office. From Hire to Retire training program in the County Administration and Management category, and Juvenile Division's PBK system integration in the Criminal Justice and Public Safety category. The From Hire to Retire training program was developed to strengthen supervisory skills and help MCAO employees transition into leadership positions. Launched in 2025, the program was created in-house and features online modules and in-person sessions covering the entire MCAO career cycle from hiring to retirement. Results from the program showed an increase in supervisory confidence and knowledge of MCAO procedures, as well as positive management experiences among employees. MCAO's Juvenile Division processes nearly 9,000 cases a year. With the rise of juvenile violence, it was essential to modernize their paper-based case management system. Staff worked tirelessly to digitize thousands of case files into MCAO's case management system. They also partnered with the courts and law enforcement to align systems and launch digital workflows, including an electronic portal used to submit cases to MCAO. The Juvenile Division's PBK system integration streamlined processing, improved efficiency, cut storage needs, and strengthened interagency collaboration. Quote, MCAO employees not only do a great job at the work they do on a day-to-day basis, but are constantly adapting and finding creative solutions to the complex challenges that arise within the criminal justice system, said County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. I'm constantly in awe of what our employees create and the passion with which they do so, especially when it's in service to others. Clip it. The next article came out on July 17th, and this is one that I did a stream on late last week, and it's been in the news for a while. Dental assistant sentenced to decades in prison for child sexual abuse. It's not the fun one, but it is one that needs to be noted. 3 children under 10 years old were victimized. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today the sentencing of Deion Garcia to 40 years in prison and lifetime supervised probation for the SA of several children under his care when he worked as a dental assistant in Chandler. In May 2024, Chandler police responded to a report of SA that occurred at a children's dental office near Arizona Avenue and Chandler Heights Road. According to the parents of the 6-year-old victim, the defendant, Deion Garcia, had inappropriately touched the victim and taken inappropriate photos of her during an X-ray exam. As police continued to investigate, they connected this case with an incident that occurred in September 2022 involving another 6-year-old who had also been SA during an X-ray exam. During a search of the defendant's phone, police also found multiple inappropriate images of a 4-year-old victim who was under anesthesia when the abuse happened. Garcia pled guilty to the following: 1 count attempted mole of a child, a Class 3 felony and dangerous crime against children; 1 count of SC with a minor, a Class 2 felony and dangerous crime against children; 2 counts of attempted SE of a minor, a Class 3 felony and dangerous crime against children. Quote, this defendant was trusted with the care of vulnerable children during routine dental procedures, and he exploited that trust for his own sexual gratification, said County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. I commend the work of the Chandler Police Department and sex crimes prosecutor Anshika Moratora in securing justice for these victims. This 40-year sentence reflects the seriousness of his crimes. Now, as a caveat, this was a plea deal that was achieved, so there were other charges that were brought up against this gentleman, but they pled it down to what you see here. And that's all I can say about this. If you want to know more about what I covered and my opinions, you please watch my previous stream that went out last week. The next article is July 24th. Serial rapist sentenced to prison for assaulting 4 women. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced that Tavine Favor has been sentenced to 34 years in prison for SAing 4 women. Some of the women reported being raped years after it happened, but prosecutors were able to establish a clear pattern in the assaults and among the victims in terms of their age and physical appearance. Favor also used physical force or coercion in each incident. Trial began on April 10th, 2026, and on May 28th, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all 4 counts of SA, a Class 2 felony. Quote, these women showed extraordinary courage, coming forward about being SA'd, knowing you'll have to relive it in detail in front of strangers in a courtroom. Takes a different kind of bravery, said Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. Their willingness to do so didn't just bring them justice, it helped put a serial rapist behind bars and protect other women from being harmed in the future. Clip it. Now we're moving on to almost the end of the month. This news alert came out on July 29th. MCAO statement on non-fatal drowning incident in Gilbert. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today that Angelo and Alexis Fiordilino, will not be charged in the non-fatal drowning of their son. Last month, Gilbert police submitted a recommendation of charges of CA for both parents. In this case, the family had multiple childproof locks and safety measures in place, and multiple adults were present in the home, all of whom believed someone was watching the child. Additionally, the investigation found no evidence that the parents exhibited any obvious signs of impairment. To file charges, the state would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury that the parents failed to recognize a substantial and unjustifiable risk, and that this failure was such a serious lapse in judgment that it was a gross deviation from what a reasonable person would have done under the same circumstances. That's a much higher legal standard than probable cause, which is what police need to submit a case for possible charges. After a review of the facts of the case and all available evidence by senior attorneys, it was determined that this case did not meet our charging standards of reasonable likelihood of conviction. This is the only submittal that Maricopa County Attorney's Office has received in connection to this incident. At this time, we do not have any available interviews. It is interesting because a lot of times, as we've seen, parents are blamed for something they may not have done. They have to go through the whole process, and those that are at fault do get prosecuted. So it's a good way to look at this story that not everyone is at fault. They do what they're supposed to do, and at least it was looked into. So protect the children at all costs. Now we have another news article that came out on July 30th. Shooter indicted for deadly confrontation at gas station. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced that Jameen Brown has been indicted for killing a man outside of a gas station in Phoenix. On July 18th, the victim, Julio Osif Diaz, went with friends to get gas at 16th Street and Thomas Road. Brown got into a confrontation with the victim and the other people who were in the car with him. The argument escalated and became physical. Brown shot Julio, unaliving him. A grand jury indicted Brown on one count of second-degree murder, a Class 1 dangerous felony. Brown is being held on a $1 million cash bond. Clip it. And as of yesterday, July 31st, driver sentenced to 30 years after marijuana-impaired high-speed crash kills 5, or unalives 5. Speeds exceeded 112 miles per hour just before the collision. We have seen that recently in another case, Ms. Shirilla. So you may have been watching a lot of that. That's been coming up on the news. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell has announced that Bjorn Hartzell has been sentenced to 30 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections after pleading guilty to 5 counts of second-degree murder, a Class 1 dangerous felony, and 1 count of endangerment, a Class 6 dangerous felony, for causing a fatal crash that killed 5 people. In November 2022, Hartzell, 16 years old at the time, was driving a Jeep Grand Cherokee near 107th Avenue and Lone Cactus Drive in Peoria when he struck a minivan carrying a family of 2 adults and 4 juveniles who had just left a Thanksgiving get-together. The 2 adults were pronounced unalived at the scene. All 4 juveniles were transported to area hospitals. 1 passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital, and 2 others later passed away from their injuries. 1 juvenile survived. Investigators found that Hartzell was driving at an extremely dangerous speed in the minute leading up to the crash. Collision reconstruction showed that Hartzell was traveling between 112 and 115 miles per hour at the time of the collision in a 40 miles per hour zone. A drug recognition expert who evaluated Hartzell's observed multiple signs of cannabis impairment. Hartzell admitted to smoking marijuana and had a court authorized blood draw confirm the presence of THC in Hartzell's blood, because I can't say that long word. Quote, no one expects a routine drive to end in tragedy because another driver chose to speed while impaired, said Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. Cases like this highlight why reckless and impaired driving remains among the greatest dangers on our roads. 5 lives were lost because of one person's decisions behind the wheel. While no sentence can undo that loss, we will continue to seek justice for victims and hold dangerous drivers accountable. Clip it. That is a powerful, very powerful. It's good to see that drivers are being held accountable, especially if you are impaired and you're on the road. And in this case, loss of life, it's unacceptable. So with that, that was the last news alert that came out in July. I'll be also presenting next month, the beginning of September, all of August. These are some well worth news articles to let you know that the citizens in Maricopa County are being protected. Folks are getting taken off the street. They are being imprisoned after being found guilty. And I appreciate their service. The law enforcement at all levels are doing a great job. Since I've been doing this for a while now, I've been over so many different stories. It's amazing to me what the public does and can't take ownership or accountability without law enforcement stepping in. So with that said, I want to thank you all for attending and watching this stream. Please join the replay crew if you weren't able to make it. I do appreciate your time. And with that, remember, one share could bring someone home. So that goes across my channel, right? If you see something going on, you can always alert law enforcement or your local law enforcement and follow through and allow them to take the lead on following up on something. Again, your views, comments, and conversations are always appreciated. And if you could please subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And if not, have a great Saturday. I'll be streaming a little bit on the Nancy Guthrie update since today is her 6th month since she's been missing or abducted, I should say. So I'd like to get that in today also, August 1st. So thank you all again, and I will see you next time.